I'm Rachel, 37 years old, living in the vibrant heart of Atlanta, Georgia, where ambition and opportunity fill the air. I share a sleek, company-owned condo with my husband, Lucas, high up in a building with a stunning view of the city skyline. We both work for Brooks Construction, a massive firm founded by my father-in-law that generates billions annually, constructing everything from towering skyscrapers to expansive suburban communities across the South. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd find myself in charge of boardrooms and dealing with the numbers of a construction empire. But life can be unpredictable. Growing up, I watched my single mom work tirelessly, holding down 2 jobs, one as a waitress during the day, the other cleaning offices by night, just to keep us going in our cramped apartment in Monroe. She taught me to stay sharp, make quick decisions, and never back down from a challenge. That resilience got me through college and into a banking career, where I learned to manage budgets and investments as if I were playing a game of chess. I loved the thrill of it, the way numbers could tell a story if you knew how to listen. But when I met Lucas, I imagined my life might take a gentler path, maybe as a homemaker, raising a family. That vision quickly faded. Lucas and I couldn't have been more different. He's charming, the type of person who puts others at ease, but there's a softness to him. Raised with privilege, a trust fund, and everything handed to him, he's never had to fight for anything. His father built Brooks Construction from a small firm into a colossal force in the industry, buying out competitors and earning respect for his sharp, tough mind. Lucas was meant to follow in his footsteps, groomed to take over the company, but he didn't have the stomach for it. One night, as we lounged on the couch watching some random reality show, he admitted it. "I'm not cut out to be CEO, Rachel," he said, his voice soft, almost relieved. "I'd just be a figurehead. It's easier that way." I remember staring at him, my heart sinking, confused how someone could be so content just floating through life. Me, I'm wired differently. I make decisions quickly, trust my gut, and act fast. My mom used to say I was born with a calculator in one hand and a plan in the other. When I married Lucas, I planned to leave my banking job behind and focus on our life, maybe start a family. But my father-in-law had other plans. Not long after our wedding, he called me into his office, a room filled with blueprints and accolades. "Rachel," he said, his eyes sharp despite his age, "this company needs someone like you. You have a head for numbers and the backbone to match. Join us." At first, I hesitated, imagining the quiet life I had once envisioned. But the challenge in his voice hooked me, and I said yes. That decision changed everything. Initially, I was just another employee, learning the ropes, construction timelines, contracts, labor costs. But my father-in-law saw something in me. A few months later, he started inviting me to board meetings, asking for my opinion on deals or budgets. The board, a group of older men at the helm, raised their eyebrows at the founder's daughter-in-law sitting at the table. I could feel their skepticism, like I didn't belong. But I didn't back down. After years in banking, analyzing risks and uncovering missed opportunities, I spoke up, suggesting ways to streamline costs or negotiate better supplier deals. Gradually, their skepticism turned to nods. They started seeking my input, and even deferring to me on major decisions. Lucas, however, wasn't around much. He was a board member in name only but would skip meetings, claiming they were too technical, or that he had other things to do. The board didn't care. His father's legacy gave him a free pass. One evening, after a marathon meeting, I came home to find Lucas sprawled on the couch, flipping through channels. "Why didn't you show up today?" I snapped, my bag hitting the floor. "You're supposed to be part of this." He didn't even look up. "You've got it covered, Rachel. They listen to you, not me." His voice was casual, as though it didn't matter. I stood there, frustration rising, wondering if he even cared about the company or our future. That moment stayed with me. I began to see the cracks in our marriage. How his indifference seemed to seep into every aspect of our life. I threw myself into work, determined to prove I belonged, not just as the founder's daughter-in-law, but as someone who could steer the company. My father-in-law became my mentor, teaching me the intricacies of the business, how to read a room, when to push, and when to pull back. I loved it, the rush of making things happen, watching my ideas turn into real growth. But with every step forward, Lucas seemed to drift further away, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to break. Work became my anchor, the only place where I felt in control. By the time my father-in-law retired, I was taking the lead on major decisions at Brooks Construction. The board relied on me, asking for my opinion on acquisitions, labor disputes, and even marketing campaigns. I would walk into those meetings with a stack of notes and a plan in hand, my old banking instincts kicking in. Numbers never lie, and I knew how to make them work. Sales grew, profits increased, and I felt a fire inside me, as though I was finally doing what I was meant to do. Growing up, I watched my mom struggle to make ends meet. Now here I was leading a company that employed thousands, with families who depended on us. That weight of responsibility fueled me. It kept me up late, constantly brainstorming ways to strengthen the business. As for Lucas, he was like a ghost. He'd appear at the office some mornings, dressed sharply with that effortless smile. By lunchtime, he'd be gone. I'd find him at home, either playing video games or napping, as if the company his father built was just a hobby. I tried talking to him, hoping he'd step up, especially after his father retired. "Lucas, this is your legacy," I'd say, frustration creeping into my voice. "Don't you want to be part of it?" He'd just shrug, that same infuriating shrug, and mumble, "You're doing fine without me." It hurt, not just because he was stepping away, but because it felt like he was pulling away from us too. Our conversations became small talk. The weather, grocery lists, nothing real. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how we had drifted so far apart. Then came my stepsister, Camila. She blew into our lives like a whirlwind. Camila was 3 years older, all charm and sharp edges. After my mom married her stepfather, a tough man who never stuck around for long, Camila and I grew up under the same roof. She learned early on how to charm her way through life, always seeking something bigger. Designer clothes, rich boyfriends, a lifestyle that screamed success. Her marriage to a high-powered lawyer ended in scandal when she cheated. Her ex stormed into our parents' house, furious, shouting about betrayal. I was buried in work, so Lucas went to calm him down. He was great at that, diffusing tense situations with his calm, steady presence. Afterward, Camila couldn't stop praising him. "Your husband is amazing, Rachel," she called to gush. "He handled that guy like it was nothing." I brushed it off, too focused on spreadsheets to care. But Camila began to see Lucas differently. To her, he wasn't just my easygoing husband. He was the heir to Brooks Construction, a golden opportunity. She had no idea he barely had any real involvement, that his executive title was just a courtesy from his dad. Camila has always been drawn to wealth. Her ex's high salary couldn't keep her loyal, but it was enough to make her marry him. Now, freshly divorced and drowning in alimony, she was on the lookout again. I didn't see it coming. I was too swamped with board meetings and growth projections to notice how she started hanging around Lucas more, laughing too loud at his jokes, texting him to meet up. One evening, I came home completely drained, my mind spinning from a long day of contract negotiations. Lucas was sitting in the living room, and his usual grin was gone. "Rachel, we need to talk," he said, his voice heavy. My stomach churned. Lucas never sounded serious. I sat down, bracing myself. "Camila's pregnant," he said, looking at the floor. "It's mine. I want a divorce." The words hit like a punch, knocking the air out of me. Pregnant? Divorce? My brain scrambled to make sense of it. Camila, my stepsister, always chasing what wasn't hers. Lucas, my husband, who couldn't even show up for work, let alone our marriage. I wanted to scream, demand answers, but all I could manage was, "When's she coming to talk about this?" He muttered something about her visiting on my day off. I nodded, numb, already knowing I'd have to face this head-on, just like everything else. The days after Lucas's revelation felt like walking through a fog. I went through the motions at work, leading meetings and finalizing deals, but my mind kept drifting back to his words. Camila's pregnant. I want a divorce. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt, it was the absurdity of it all. Camila, who had always chased after shiny, superficial things, had fixated on Lucas, thinking he was some high-powered CEO. And Lucas, too spineless to stand up for himself, had allowed it. I felt like a fool for not noticing sooner. for letting my career blind me to the cracks in my personal life. I knew I had to protect my position at Brooks Construction. If I divorced Lucas, I would be nothing more than just another ex-daughter-in-law. And I couldn't afford to lose the role I had worked so hard to earn. The following morning, I drove to my in-laws' grand estate outside Atlanta, my nerves on edge. My father-in-law was in his study, surrounded by old photographs and blueprints. I told him everything. Lucas's affair, Camila's pregnancy, the divorce. My mother-in-law, standing nearby, gasped, her eyes lighting up at the mention of a grandchild. But one sharp glance from my father-in-law immediately silenced her. He leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable, and then smiled. "Rachel, you're the backbone of this company," he said. "I don't care what Lucas does. You keep running things. I'll deal with him." A wave of relief washed over me, mixed with a tinge of sadness. My father-in-law valued the business, his legacy, more than his own son. But to me, it meant I could hold on to my sense of purpose, my place. When my day off arrived, Camila came to the condo, brimming with smug confidence, her designer bag swinging like a trophy. "Rachel," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy, "I'm so sorry you couldn't have kids. But don't worry, I'll make sure you get plenty of money to start over. Just leave the condo." She gestured to the space as if she already owned it. Lucas sat there, silent as ever, his face an empty mask. I almost wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Camila thought she was stepping into some glamorous, billionaire lifestyle, but she had no idea how little Lucas actually had. I stayed calm, focusing on the same cool demeanor I used in meetings. "Divorce is fine," I said, my voice steady. "But we'll need lawyers to sort out alimony and property. And Camila, you really think Lucas is the prize you're after?" Her eyes narrowed, but she shrugged it off, all bravado. "I know it's real, Rachel. Lucas has everything I need." I suppressed a smirk. She believed he was the president, the heir, sitting on a fortune. She didn't realize the condo was company property, nor that Lucas's executive salary barely covered his daily expenses. I let her keep talking, her arrogance filling the room, while I quietly calculated my next moves. This wasn't just about a broken marriage. It was about protecting everything I'd built. And I wasn't going to let either of them take it from me. The next day, we were set for the divorce negotiations. I was prepared. I'd hired Mia, a sharp lawyer who specialized in high-stakes corporate cases and knew exactly how to keep things firm yet fair. We met in a sleek conference room at Brooks Construction, the Atlanta skyline sparkling through the windows. Camila strutted in, acting like the winner, while Lucas slouched beside her, his usual indifferent expression in place. I sat across from them, Mia by my side. My heart pounded, but my face remained calm. I'd spent years outmaneuvering competitors in boardrooms. I could handle this. Camila made the first move, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "Rachel," she said, "name your price for alimony. I'll make sure you're taken care of." Her tone was condescending, as if she were doing me a favor. Mia raised an eyebrow, then slid a document across the table. "Since you're offering," she said coolly, "we'll be claiming alimony from both Lucas and you, Camila." Camila's jaw dropped. "I'm already paying my ex," she sputtered. I leaned back, watching her confidence crumble. She hadn't seen this coming, hadn't thought through the mess she'd created. My mom's voice rang in my mind. "People who take shortcuts always stumble." Camila was stumbling hard. Then the topic of property division came up. Camila, still trying to regain her footing, declared, "This condo belongs to Lucas's family. It's not part of the split." Mia didn't hesitate. "The condo and the land it's on belong to Brooks Construction. The company decides who stays." Lucas blinked, surprised. "Wait, I thought it was Dad's," he mumbled. Camila's face drained of color. "So we can't live here?" she asked, her voice sharp. Mia responded firmly. "You can, if the company permits it. But that decision is up to the acting CEO." She glanced at me, and I saw Camila's eyes widen as she processed the truth. "Hold on," Camila said, turning to Lucas. "You're not the CEO?" I stepped in, calm but firm. "I'm the acting CEO, Camila. Lucas is an advisor, with no executive power. My father-in-law made me president when he retired, and the board trusts me to run things." Lucas looked away, embarrassed, while Camila's expression twisted in disbelief. "You're kidding," she snapped, glaring at Lucas. "You let me think you were in charge?" He shrugged that infuriating shrug. I almost laughed. Camila had banked on Lucas being her ticket to wealth, but she'd completely misread the situation. Mia, still chuckling, asked me, "Can Lucas and Camila stay in the condo?" Before I could respond, Camila interrupted. "It's company property, so it's free for Lucas, right?" Mia shook her head, sliding over a rental agreement. "It's leased to employees at market rate. Here's the number." The price was steep. Atlanta's luxury condo market wasn't cheap. Lucas's eyes widened. "My salary can't cover that," he muttered. Camila looked as though she'd been slapped. She'd walked in expecting a mansion, and was now confronted with rent she couldn't afford. I felt a mix of pity and triumph. Camila's whole plan, seducing Lucas, chasing his supposed fortune, had collapsed. Lucas, who never cared about money or responsibility, was just as lost. I'd spent years covering our expenses, pouring my salary into rent and bills while Lucas coasted. Now, with no savings to split, the divorce was clean, but it was brutal. Camila's dreams of a lavish life were dust, and Lucas was left with nothing but indecision. I walked out of that room feeling lighter, ready to leave them both behind and focus on what mattered. My company, my team, my future. The fallout was almost poetic. Camila's lies unraveled faster than expected. A few weeks after the negotiations, word got back to Lucas's family that her pregnancy claim was a lie. She had spun the story to trap Lucas, banking on his family's wealth to bail her out of her own financial mess. My mother-in-law, who had been so excited about a grandchild, was crushed. My father-in-law, who'd never trusted Camila, was furious. "She's no daughter-in-law of mine," he growled when I visited him for advice. The tension at their estate was palpable. Camila and Lucas, now living there, were at odds with everyone. My father-in-law barely spoke to her, and when Camila begged him to cover her alimony payments to her ex, he shut her down cold. "You're nothing to this family," he said, his voice like steel. She'd crossed a line, and there was no coming back. Camila couldn't handle it. One morning, she packed a bag and disappeared, leaving Lucas to face his parents' disappointment alone. She had entered this thinking she'd secured a rich husband and a comfortable life, but all she got was debt and drama. Lucas, meanwhile, tried to crawl back to me. One evening, he showed up at my new apartment, a modest place I'd rented in Midtown Atlanta. All clean lines and quiet peace. "Rachel, maybe we could try again," he said, his eyes pleading. I laughed, not out of cruelty, but from sheer exhaustion. "Lucas, you made your choices. I told you you cheated with my stepsister. You checked out of our marriage long before that. I'm done." His dad had already cut him from the company, demoting him to a job pushing papers. The man who had once been heir to Brooks Construction was now scraping by, and I felt nothing but relief to be free of him. I threw myself into my work, the one place I felt whole. Running Brooks Construction wasn't just a job, it was my calling. Every decision, from approving new projects to ensuring our workers had stable jobs, felt like a promise kept to the people who depended on me. I thought about my mom, how she'd worked herself to the bone for me, and I poured that energy into making the company better. Our profits grew, new contracts rolled in, and the board began calling me the backbone of the business. My father-in-law became my rock, offering advice over coffee at his estate, his gruff wisdom grounding me. "You're doing what I always hoped Lucas would," he said once, his eyes soft with pride. That meant more to me than any title. I don't think about remarriage. The idea of letting someone else in after all that betrayal feels like too much. My heart's been through a meat grinder, and I'm not ready to hand it over again. Instead, I'm married to my work, to the thousands of employees whose families rely on Brooks Construction. Their trust keeps me going, pushes me to show up every day with a clear head and a steady hand. I've learned what I'm capable of, what it means to stand tall when the world tries to knock you down. Camila and Lucas, they're a distant memory, a lesson in trusting my gut and choosing my own path. Teo, and everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, heartbreak, and hard-earned victories. If my story resonated with you, If it made you feel the sting of injustice or the rush of fighting back, hit that subscribe button and join me. Every project we build, every deal we close, tells a story of grit, heart, and starting over. Keep carving your own path, and I'll see you at the next one.